Hi there! Before we begin with this general introduction to Open Science, I will give you 3 reasons to watch this clip. The first is based on a real research article. You will see how Open Science can look like. The second is you will get to know the 3 basic principles of Open Science. And the third is you will also be introduced to the Open Science framework. So let's start. I would like to introduce you to Open Science practices based on a real research article. We have an article from some colleagues of mine here, and it follows the typical format of a research article. We have the title, we have the subtitle, all the authors are named, and here's the abstract which summarizes the key findings of the study. And what is especially interesting for us regarding Open Science practices are those 3 colored badges right below the abstract. Which say the study is pre-registered, open data, and open materials. And in the following, I will explain to you what each of those badges mean and what the authors did to earn those badges on their research article. The first badge says pre-registered. What does that mean? What this means is that the authors determined the exact research question for the study before they conducted their experiment. It's not surprising given that you should know your exact research question, but in addition to that, they also specified clear hypotheses which will be tested with the data of this exact research project. And in addition to that, they also specified how these hypotheses will be tested with the data. And this whole plan on the hypotheses and the analysis to test these hypotheses are written down and uploaded on a public homepage before the authors conduct their study. I won't go much into detail here, but still I want to show you how these authors pre-registered their research idea. We follow the typical format of a research article. The authors explain their theoretical background on the anchoring effect and also some empirical findings on this effect. And based on this theoretical background, they also derive clear hypotheses, which are stated in the section on predictions and contributions of the present study. So based on the theoretical background, they predict a specific pattern of results for their experiment. And we will just have a look on figure 1, the left part here. As an example, based on the theory, the authors expect this pattern of results. They have 3 groups of participants, and this is the pattern which they would expect regarding the willingness to pay for a specific product in this experiment. So this is what they expected, what they hypothesized, and also in the analysis section on the methods, they also explain that they conduct a 3x2 ANOVA on participants' willingness to pay. So this is the analysis plan to test this hypothesis and this pattern of results. The second badge says open data. This open data badge means that after the authors conducted the experiment, they made a data set and the analysis script of the experiment publicly available. So for everyone who's interested in the data of this experiment and how the authors came to their results, could just download the data and the analysis script. So when we scroll through the research article, right at the end of the research article, there's a section called Open Data, and here it says all experimental materials and results are available at the Open Science Framework. And when we click on this link, we will be redirected to a Open Science project with the exact same title. Again, we have the 3 authors here, and here's additional material on this research article. And here we have a folder called Data, and here we have a data set, which is a SPSS file, and also a analysis script. And when we click on the data set, we can also see that we have the whole data set available with many participants. We could just click on the download button to download this data set. And the analysis script here also directly opens up, and we can see how the authors analyzed their data set, how they conducted their ANOVA on the willingness to pay, for example. So you can just see what they exactly did to test their hypotheses. Imagine this, you read the article, but you're not convinced that the researchers really found this pattern of results, or maybe you would like to make another analysis to investigate whether this pattern is, for example, different from male compared to female participants. And by making their data and code openly accessible, the authors make it possible that you verify their results, and even that you conduct alternative or additional analysis on the same data set. The third badge says Open Materials. This Open Materials badge means that in addition to the data set and the analysis script, the authors also made the materials of the experiment publicly available. So this could mean they uploaded the questionnaire, they uploaded videos which the participants were presented to, or other materials, just to give more details on the exact experiment design and the whole procedure of the experiment. To have a look at the materials of the research article, again, we would need to go to the Open Data section at the end. Here, as already stated, it says all experimental materials and results are available at the Open Science Framework. We would click at the link here, and we would be directed to the Open Science project. And in addition to the folder with the data set and the analysis script, we have some materials uploaded here. When we click on one of these PDF files, we can see that the authors also share the whole questionnaire of the experiment. So you can see how the participants were welcomed for the study. You can see what information were given to participants on the house, which they had to evaluate later. And again, many information on the house. And you can also see what questions were asked and how the participants had to answer these questions, and how the answers were provided by the participants. So you have a clear idea of the experiment and how the authors realized their experimental design. Imagine this, you're also interested in anchoring effects, but you would like to investigate whether you would find the same pattern of results for much cheaper products, for instance. You could choose a pair of headphones for 20 euros. So you're reading this article and you find the experimental design quite nice, and then you could go directly to the supplemental material and you could have a look at the questionnaire and the specific questions that participants were asked, and you could use this material similarly for your own experiment. So this is especially interesting for students working on their thesis, or also for researchers to inspire their own research design and procedure. So let's shortly sum up what we did in this clip. We talked about the 3 badges: pre-registered, open data, and open materials. These 3 badges highlight 3 core principles of open science, that is to pre-register specific hypotheses and an analysis plan, and to make your data and also your materials publicly available. And a growing number of journals use these badges to encourage researchers to follow these open science practices, and the general aim is to establish those practices in the research field and in the research community. And you will find some further information and materials below this clip here. Thanks for watching.